25 years after the Rwandan genocide, bodies are still being unearthed. This mass grave was discovered on the outskirts of Rwanda's capital, Kigali. Innocent Gazisigwa lived through the horrors. He shows me some of what was recently dug up: fragments of bones, a skull, and weapons from the war. Many skeletons have already been removed and prepared for burial. All that remains are these rotted clothes.
This isn't the place to leave bodies. So removing them makes us happy. Now we can bury them with dignity.
Rwandan officials say they were tipped off to this location by a man who was convicted of participating in the genocide and released last year. They came here and discovered underneath houses and stores thousands of bodies. The East African country of Rwanda has been historically dominated by two ethnic groups, a minority Tutsi and a majority Hutu. A group of mostly Tutsi exiles, whose parents had been earlier forced out of the country, formed the Rwandan Patriotic Front, known as the RPF. In 1990, the RPF invaded Rwanda with the goal of taking power. As the fighting escalated between 1990 and 1994, the Hutu-dominated Rwandan government called on people to attack anyone who could be a supporter of the Tutsi rebels. On April 6, 1994, unknown assailants shot down a plane carrying Rwanda's Hutu president. Within days, extremists took control of the government and responded with mass violence. In just 3 months, around 800,000 Tutsi and moderate Hutu were killed. The genocide ended when the rebel RPF defeated the government that July. While most foreigners evacuated during the killings, Carl Wilkins, an American missionary and aid worker, remained.
It's just crazy how much has changed. It's just so beautiful now. These manicured, medians in the middle and palm trees. It's so bizarre. It's amazing.
Wilkins is back in Kigali to commemorate the genocide. Back in his old neighborhood, he told us what he saw 25 years ago.
I looked at this hillside, and in fields and empty plots, I saw what looked like garbage. And I got my binoculars, and I looked, and I saw the whole hillside was covered with bodies.
Wilkins lives in the States now, where he speaks in American schools, teaching students about the genocide. He often returns to Rwanda.
During the school year, I'm visiting schools, telling stories about what it was like during the genocide, but also stories about the recovery and how people are learning to live together again.
But learning to live together has understandably been hard for Rwandans. Annunziata Narijabiwabo is a Tutsi survivor. Today, she lives in Nyumba, a peaceful village in the south of Rwanda. But 25 years ago, her life was turned upside down. She says one day, soldiers came and took her husband away.
They knocked on the door, woke us up, and when my husband opened the door, a soldier just slapped him in the face and took him away. I never saw him again.
As the violence against Tutsi escalated and her neighbors fled, she and her then 1-year-old child found shelter in a doghouse. At the time, she was 8 months pregnant. A month later, while still in hiding, she went into labor.
Everyone had fled. It was so quiet. I couldn't even hear the birds sing. That's when I gave birth to my second child. I couldn't even feel the pain. It's like I was a walking dead person.
Narajabiwabo says she and her now 2 children stayed hidden in the doghouse for another month, eating little and fearing for their lives. 25 years later, she says the killers must be rehabilitated, but she's in no mood to forgive.
You can never find a strong enough punishment for someone who killed in the way they killed. If you killed them, you would be relieving them of the pain they feel inside. They should live and see the survivors and what they did.
The trials following the genocide included 400,000 in which suspected perpetrators were tried by the new government in local courts. Simon Ndahayo was tried and admitted to participating in the killing. Using his fingers, he counted the number of lives he ended.
5. I think about it a lot. Killing 5 people who didn't do anything to me. It hurts me so much.
While in prison, he says, he asked judicial authorities for forgiveness and was eventually released. But thousands of Rwandans are still behind bars. He says many have not yet admitted their responsibility.
I'm not ashamed to say this. All the people who admitted their guilt and asked for forgiveness, they're doing okay. But some people didn't go to prison, and they may be hiding things still.
While some may hide their pasts, none can forget them. Many suffer from post-traumatic stress. A new study in the journal Psychiatry Research suggests that their children, many of whom weren't even born then, are more likely than other children to suffer from trauma. And there are other medical problems, some of them life-threatening. An estimated 250 to 500,000 mostly Tutsi women and girls were raped during the genocide. Many were infected with HIV.
When the killing started, I went to my neighbor to try and seek refuge. I thought he would protect me, but he raped me, and he gave me HIV. I had to choose between death and staying there. I had no way out.
Adara spoke to us on condition of hiding her full identity. Today she's picking up life-saving antiretroviral drugs from a hospital in Kigali. Her husband and 5 of her children were killed during the genocide. Her daughter survived and lived with her mother until she recently married. Now Adara lives alone.
It's not that I'm HIV positive that makes me think of the genocide now. The main thing is the loss of my husband and children. Now I'm getting older, and I think, if my children hadn't been killed, maybe they'd be taking care of me now.
She's getting help paying for food from Survivors Fund, an international nonprofit that helps vulnerable Tutsi survivors. Samuel Munderere is the director of Survivors Fund. He echoes the theme we hear everywhere, that in Rwanda, the past is always present.
The challenges survivors face have changed over time. For some, and I think for many, genocide is still fresh in their mind. And the way the consequences have revolved 25 years has been a very short time.
Still, the country has moved forward. New buildings dot the skyline in Kigali. Hard numbers are hard to come by, but GDP per capita is reportedly 6 times what it was in 1995. For the Rwandan government, stitching back together the social fabric means taking a strong-armed approach to promoting a new national identity. Today, it's illegal to ask if someone is Hutu or Tutsi.
We need a very strong identity, Rwandan identity, and to be proud of it.
The goal is to create a new national sense of citizenship, one that's not built on ethnicity. One way they do that is with a program called Umuganda. Umuganda is a mandatory community service program. In Rwandan, it means coming together for a common purpose. Umuganda requires a day of service each month for all Rwandans between 18 and 65. Hutu and Tutsi.
Everyone needs to participate in Umuganda. It's the law.
Villagers here in Kieru are clearing a field ahead of the opening of a new school. Often during Umuganda, villagers pick an area to clean or fix a road. Anyone who doesn't participate can be fined 5,000 francs, or around $6. That's not a small sum in Rwanda.
Afterwards, we have a group meeting and try and solve any problems we might have. It's an occasion to get together.
Some find the government's approach to nation-building heavy-handed. Others maintain it has helped bring relative security to the country. Either way, for many, 25 years was only yesterday, and the reconciliation process remains ongoing.